What kind of manager charges more than the advertised price and tells you to take it or leave it? That sentence stuck in Kellan Travis' head as he stood in the back of the packed theater lobby, fake glasses slipping slightly from his nose, hoodie pulled tight. He wasn't here because of that complaint, not exactly. He was here because store number 9, one of 16 theaters he'd built from the ground up over the last 13 years, had been underperforming for almost 12 months. Attendance was steady, expenses were average, and yet profits were dipping. No one could give him a straight answer, just vague reports and half-hearted explanations from the district manager. Kellan hated that. He'd started this company with a single screen in a converted warehouse outside Omaha. He'd sold his car, maxed out 2 credit cards, and begged a contractor friend to help with the build-out. Now, he had 16 theaters across 3 states, and most of them were thriving. But store number 9? Something wasn't right. So here he was, standing in line on a Friday night under the name Ethan, wearing clothes that didn't fit quite right and a beard he'd been growing for weeks. No one at this location had ever met him. The manager here had been hired through a virtual process after the pandemic and had only spoken to him once, briefly, over a conference call. He slipped into the crowd, bought a medium soda and a small popcorn from a teenager with tired eyes named Jonah, and kept his receipt. The price was right. He waited. The line grew. Then a man in front of him, a father with a young daughter holding a stuffed monkey, stepped up to the ticket counter. 2 for the Galactic Drift, please, the man said. That'll be 38, the manager at the counter said. Kellan blinked. 38? The printed price for 2 evening tickets was 30. The man looked confused. The sign says 15 each. Tax and service fee, the manager said flatly. You want M or not? The dad glanced behind at the line growing longer, then slowly pulled out his card. The manager swiped it and handed him the tickets without another word. Kellan narrowed his eyes. He got back in line. When it was his turn, he approached the same manager, tall guy, probably mid-30s, heavy-set with slicked-back hair and a Bluetooth earpiece still jammed in one ear. His name tag read, Devin, General Manager. Hey, Kellan said casually. 1 for the Galactic Drift. 21, Devin said. Wait, it's 15. Taxes. Processing. It's all there. Kellan stared at him. You're adding $6 on top of the ticket price? Look, man, it's Friday night. We got crowds out the door. You want the ticket or not? Kellan paid, took the ticket, then stood to the side and watched. Over the next 20 minutes, he saw Devin ring up 10 more customers. Every single one of them was charged more than the posted price. And no one said anything. The staff didn't bat an eye. Kellan felt his jaw tighten. He moved through the lobby, pretending to look at posters, and struck up a conversation with Jonah, the teenager from earlier. Busy night, huh? Jonah nodded, wiping down the counter. Yeah, Fridays are nuts. We're down 2 people, so it's chaos. Why are you short-staffed? Manager cut hours. Said we didn't need a full team unless it's a holiday. Kellan raised a brow. But it's packed. Yeah, but he says labor costs are too high. Kellan kept his tone light. How long you worked here? 8 months. I like it, but... He looked around, then leaned in slightly. Honestly, Devin's kind of harsh. Like, don't ask questions harsh. Just then, a woman in her 20s rushed past, holding 3 drinks poorly balanced on a tray. She slipped slightly, caught herself, and kept going. Who's she? Kellan asked. Whitney, Jonah said. She's a floor lead. Honestly, does way more than she should. Keeps this place running. No joke. Kellan watched her. Whitney moved fast, helped customers, ran concessions, and even jumped behind the ticket kiosk when the line got long again. Devin, meanwhile, he was stationed at the main counter doing nothing but selling tickets, overcharging, and barking at anyone who asked questions. Kellan stepped into Theater 5, sat through 20 minutes of previews, then slipped out and wandered the hallway. He found Whitney refilling a candy display. "Hey," he said, "you work here long?" Whitney wiped her hands on her apron. "Almost 2 years. Started part-time, then they made me lead." "You like it?" "I love helping people. Love movies. But it's been rough." "How so?" She hesitated, looked around, then said quietly, "Devin's not honest. He takes a cut from ticket sales. Charges extra, pockets the difference. I tried reporting it once. Got told to drop it or lose my hours." Kellan's stomach turned. "Who told you that?" "Devin. Said if I went to corporate, they'd believe him over me. Said I don't make enough to have an opinion." Kellan nodded slowly. He still didn't reveal who he was. He thanked her, said he was just a curious customer, and walked out. Later that night, he sat in his rental car outside the theater, hands gripping the wheel. He'd built this company to give people good jobs and customers great service. This wasn't what he built. He wasn't angry. He was ready. Tomorrow, he'd be back. And this time, he wasn't just watching. He was going to clean house. Kellan was back at the theater the following morning before the sun had fully crested the horizon. This time, he wore a staff polo, an old pair of sneakers, and a name badge that read Ethan New Hire. He'd arranged everything through a trusted head of HR 2 weeks earlier, giving them only the location and a fake identity to set up an internal training profile. No one at this theater had any reason to suspect that Ethan was the man who signed their paychecks. He entered through the side service door just after 7, slipping into the break room where a single overhead bulb buzzed faintly. The walls were bare except for a torn schedule taped to the whiteboard and a forgotten box of popcorn oil wedged in the corner. A young woman with auburn braids and a wrinkled staff hoodie looked up from her phone. "You the new guy?" she asked, not bothering to stand. "Yeah, Ethan." "Cool. I'm Lacey." She gave a quick nod. "You're early. The manager doesn't get here till 8. You can chill or start stocking if you want. Up to you." Kellan didn't sit. He spent the next 45 minutes unpacking boxes of drink lids and restocking the fridge beneath the counter. No one else showed up until Whitney walked in at 7:40, still wearing her signature gray vest and moving with the same focused energy he'd seen the night before. She paused when she saw him, eyes narrowing slightly. "You the new hire?" "Yeah, Ethan. Just started stocking." "Good. We need hands." She set her bag down and pulled out a checklist. "I've got front lobby, bathrooms, and concession prep this morning. You take the mop closet, check the soda nozzles, and make sure Theater 4's seats aren't sticky. We had a spill last night." He nodded and got to work. The mop closet had a sour smell and the bucket water hadn't been changed in days. He dumped it, refilled it, and made a mental note to audit the sanitation procedures across all locations. Theater 4's spill turned out to be a half-dissolved slushy pooling under 3 seats. He scrubbed it down, then tested the soda nozzles. Only 2 were dispensing properly. The others sputtered or foamed over. By the time Devin arrived, the lobby was clean, the bathrooms had been checked, and the opening crew was halfway through morning prep. Devin didn't acknowledge any of it. He walked in wearing mirrored sunglasses and carrying a breakfast sandwich in one hand. "Where's Whitney?" he asked loudly. "Stockroom," Lacey called back. He didn't respond. Instead, he eyed Kellan up and down. "You the new guy?" "Yeah, Ethan. You work fast." "I try." Devin took a bite of his sandwich, chewed slowly, then said, "You're on trash duty and floors. Don't talk to customers unless they talk to you. Don't ask questions. Don't touch the register. Got it? Got it. Good." He walked off without another word, disappearing into the locked manager's office. Kellan watched the door close and stay shut for the next hour. By 10:15, 3 more employees had clocked in. None of them looked older than 19. One of them, a tall kid named Marcus, limped slightly as he walked. Kellan caught up to him near the stockroom. "You all right?" Marcus glanced down at his leg. "Twisted my ankle yesterday carrying a keg. Told Devin, but he said if I didn't show today, he'd cut next week's hours." "Did you fill out an incident report?" He looked confused. "What's that?" Kellan kept his expression neutral. "Never mind. Just take it easy. He worked side by side with the crew through the morning rush. They were understaffed, moving fast, and barely keeping up. Whitney ran the floor, juggling customer service, register corrections, and supply restocks without a break. Kellan stepped in wherever he could, mopping spills, restocking straws, calming down a frustrated mother whose order had been wrong twice in a row. By noon, the lobby was shoulder to shoulder again. Devin finally emerged from his office, now wearing a different shirt and sipping an iced tea. "Whitney," he called out, "go cover Theater 6. I got the front." Whitney passed Kellan on her way out. "He won't actually do anything," she muttered. "Just wait." Kellan posted up near the trash bins, wiping down tables and watching carefully. Within minutes, Devin was back at the register. 2-4 Feral Moon, a college-aged couple said. 32, Devin replied without looking up. The guy hesitated. "Wait, it says 13 a ticket?" "Holiday surcharge," Devin said flatly. "It's not a holiday." Devin tapped the keyboard. "New release fee. Take it or leave it." Kellan stepped closer, just close enough to hear. The couple exchanged a look but paid. 3 more transactions followed the same pattern. The overcharge was never consistent, sometimes $4 more, sometimes $6. Always vague, always firm. No printed explanation, no visible signage. Just Devin's word. Then came a woman with 2 children, both under 10, holding hands. 2 kids and 1 adult for Paw Patrol Galaxy, she said. Devin peered at the screen. 42. She blinked. "Excuse me? Kids are supposed to be 10 each. That's 30. Processing fees. It's peak hours." She frowned. "But I'm paying in cash." "Still counts." Kellan stepped forward. "Ma'am, if you don't mind waiting just a moment," he said calmly, "I'll help you at the other register." Devin turned. He's new. Doesn't know the system. Kellan opened the second register with his override code. It worked. He rang up the tickets manually, 10 each for the kids, 12 for the adult. 32 with tax. He handed over the tickets and change. "Enjoy the show." The woman looked relieved. "Thank you. That felt more fair." Kellan nodded. She walked off. Devin's jaw tightened. "What do you think you're doing? Charging the correct amount. You don't decide what's correct. I used the posted price list. You don't have override access." Kellan looked at him evenly. "I do now." Devin scoffed. "You're some smug seasonal guy trying to play hero?" Whitney returned from Theater 6 just in time to hear that. She didn't interrupt, just watched. Kellan leaned in slightly. "You overcharge customers. You pocket the difference. You threaten your team with reduced hours if they speak up. You ignore injury reports. You lie about fees that don't exist." Devin's face flushed. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Kellan pulled off his badge, then his lanyard, then reached into his back pocket and pulled out his ID. The name read, Kellan Travis, CEO. Devin's mouth opened, but no words came. "I've seen enough," Kellan said. "You're done. Effective immediately." Devin looked around as if expecting someone to defend him. No one did. Marcus leaned on the counter, arms crossed. Lacey stood by the soda machine, silent. Whitney exhaled slowly, her shoulders finally relaxing. "You can't just, I can. And I have. You've created a toxic environment, stolen from customers, and abused your authority. You're not only fired, but I'll be forwarding your behavior to legal. You may be hearing from them." Devin stood frozen for a moment, then turned and stormed toward the office. Kellan followed. Inside, the office was cluttered with empty bags of chips, unopened mail, and a drawer left half open revealing several crumpled receipts. Kellan scanned the workstation, pulled the drawer fully open, and found a zippered envelope stuffed with loose bills and old ticket stubs. He didn't say a word. Just took a photo, zipped it shut, and slipped it into his pocket. When Devin returned, Kellan handed him a termination notice, already printed by HR and emailed to the location earlier that morning in case it was needed. "Leave your keys. You'll be escorted out." Devin didn't argue. He just snatched his sunglasses, muttered something under his breath, and walked out the door. Kellan turned to see Whitney standing in the hallway, eyes wide. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I've wanted that to happen for over a year. You should have had the support long before now. I tried. No one listened. You've got it now." She glanced at the rest of the team who had slowly gathered nearby, watching silently. Kellan raised his voice just enough. We're going to take a short pause. Everyone, 10-minute break. Paid. You've earned it. Nobody moved right away. Then Marcus smiled faintly and headed toward the back. The others followed. Whitney stayed behind. What happens now? She asked. Now we fix things. And it starts today. Kellan sat alone in the theater office, the silence wrapping around him like a heavy curtain. The desk still smelled faintly of fast food and stale air. Sunlight pushed through the dusty blinds, catching on the stack of neglected maintenance forms piled in the corner. He scanned the last 2 months of customer refunds and chargebacks. Just as he suspected, multiple complaints had been buried under vague system error notes. He sent a message to corporate accounting to freeze all expense reimbursements from this location until further notice. Then he stood and walked out into the hallway where Whitney was waiting with a clipboard half filled with shift notes. "Can I get your help with something?" he asked. She gave a quick nod. "Of course." They headed to the break room. Kellan motioned for the rest of the staff to join them. No one looked surprised even before the announcement. The tension from earlier had shifted into something else. Uncertainty, maybe hope, a little caution. Kellan addressed them calmly. "I know this morning was a shock. I want to be clear about what happens next. We're not closing. No one is losing their job unless they've been part of the problem. But things are going to change. Starting today." He scanned the group. Lacey leaned against the fridge, arms crossed but listening. Marcus stood with one hand on the chair for balance. Jonah had earbuds slung around his neck and looked like he'd barely slept. "I need someone to step into a temporary leadership role while we search for a permanent manager. Someone who knows the operations, has earned the team's respect, and understands how to treat people right." Whitney didn't react. She just looked at the floor. Kellan continued. "Whitney, I'd like you to take point for now, if you're willing." She lifted her head. "I don't have formal training. You've been running this place without the title. You'll have full support from me and our regional team. You won't be flying blind." She hesitated, then said, "All right. I'll do it." Kellan nodded. "Good. Now let's talk about the next 48 hours. They didn't have enough staff to handle normal weekend volume, so he made a decision. They'd reduce showtimes by 20% for the next 2 days to prevent burnout. Whitney would compile a full inventory list and note every equipment issue. Kellan would personally review each employee file, including any write-ups Devin had entered. He didn't trust a single one. After the team dispersed, Kellan and Whitney walked the building together. She pointed out the jammed soap dispensers in both restrooms, the faulty ticket scanner in Theater 3, and the broom closet door that didn't latch unless you kicked it shut. When they passed by Jonah restocking the napkin dispensers, Kellan paused. "You okay with your hours this week?" he asked. Jonah shrugged. "I mean, I could use more. I'm saving up for classes this fall. We'll work on that. You've been showing up and doing solid work. We noticed." Jonah straightened a little. "Thanks." Back at the front counter, a line was forming again. Whitney stepped behind the register and Kellan stood nearby to observe. This time, every transaction matched the posted price. Customers moved through quickly, some clearly surprised by how smooth things were running. Then a woman in a floral scarf and sunglasses approached the counter with 2 teenagers in tow. She looked Kellan over, then turned to Whitney. "You the manager now?" Whitney hesitated. "Acting manager, yes. Can I help? I was here last month. Got charged an extra $8 for tickets and was told it was. Then you surcharge or something. I emailed twice. No reply." "I'm sorry that happened," Whitney said. "That manager is no longer with us. Let me take care of that refund right now." The woman blinked. "Really?" Whitney already had the drawer open. "Do you have your receipt?" The woman pulled it from her purse. Kellan watched quietly as Whitney processed the refund, handed over the cash, and offered 2 free drink vouchers. The woman walked away looking stunned but satisfied. By late afternoon, the lobby was holding steady. The team was tight on capacity, but with Kellan and Whitney stepping in where needed, the flow held. And then something happened that put everything in perspective. A man entered carrying a stack of pizza boxes. He was wiry with a stained work shirt and a baseball cap. He made a beeline for the ticket counter where Marcus was ringing someone out. "Yo," the man said abruptly. "I'm here to see Marcus. I need a word." Kellan crossed the lobby quickly. "Can I help you?" The man looked him over. "You corporate?" "Something like that. What's this about?" "I'm his stepdad. He didn't pick up my call and I need the car keys." Kellan turned to Marcus, who had gone still. "You okay with this?" he asked him. Marcus hesitated. "It's fine." But it wasn't. Not entirely. Kellan saw the flicker in his eyes. The man stepped forward again. "He better not be lying about his hours." "I drove him here last week and he said he had a full shift but he was out in 3. "I didn't make the schedule," Marcus said quietly. "That's not the point. You're not just gonna lounge at home when I'm paying insurance." Kellan stepped between them. "This isn't the place." The man bristled. "Who are you to say that? I'm the owner. And I'm telling you this is a workplace. You want to talk to him, you wait outside." The man clenched his jaw but didn't argue. He turned and walked out, pushing the door open with a little too much force. Marcus didn't say anything. "You need a minute?" Kellan asked. "I'm good. I saw the limp earlier. Don't hide injuries. We'll get you checked out and adjust your hours." Marcus nodded once, then returned to the counter. Later, once the evening rush began, Lacey requested to speak with Whitney in private. Kellan stayed back, but he watched from a distance, noting the body language. After a few minutes, Whitney returned. "She wants to stay on," she said. "But she's been pulling doubles for weeks without real rest. Said she didn't want to speak up before. We'll rotate her to shorter shifts. And give her 2 days off next week. She earned it." By closing time, the crew was tired but holding together. Kellan gathered everyone once more before they left. "I'll be here through the weekend. We're going to fix the maintenance issues, build a better schedule, and clean up everything Devin left behind. You've all been under a lot more pressure than you should have been. That changes now." Lacey looked up. "Are other theaters like this?" "Not anymore," Kellan said simply. "And if they were, they won't be for long." Jonah cracked a grin. "Good. Thought it was just us." Whitney checked her watch. "I'll send out the new shift rotation by morning. I'll prioritize rest time." Kellan gave her a nod. Smart leadership. As the team filed out one by one, Kellan stayed behind. He walked the hallway alone, checking each auditorium. A soda bottle had rolled under a seat in Theater 2. He picked it up. A popcorn bag had been left near the exit in Theater 6. He folded it and tossed it into the bin. It was after midnight when he finally sat in the back row of Theater 1, lights still dimmed from the last show. The screen was blank, but the feeling in the room was different now. The damage had been deep but not irreversible. Tomorrow would be a long day. But for the first time in a while, he wasn't dreading it. By Sunday afternoon, the rhythm of the theater had shifted. The floor still buzzed with the usual weekend energy, families trickling in for matinees, teenagers in line for popcorn, the occasional frustrated parent trying to wrangle kids, but behind the counters and beyond the screens, something deeper was settling in. Kellan stood in the projection booth above Theater 7, watching the digital reel spin. He'd spent most of the morning working with the lead tech from corporate who had driven in to recalibrate the sound systems, replace a dead projector bulb, and flag 2 fire code issues that had gone unnoticed. Whitney had been juggling the front and back with quiet efficiency. She hadn't asked for help unless she truly needed it. Even when the soda CO2 ran low and the line doubled back to the doors, she rerouted customers to the alternate kiosk without a pause. A week ago, that kind of issue would have spiraled. Now it was handled in minutes. Downstairs, Marcus was stationed at the entrance to Theater 4, scanning tickets with a handheld reader. He'd taken Kellan aside earlier in the day and asked for a lighter role until his ankle healed. Kellan moved him off heavy-duty shifts for the next 7 days and promised to cover urgent medical costs if he needed them. No red tape, no questions, just action. Lacey, meanwhile, was on break in the back room, finally off her feet after 6 straight hours. The new schedule gave her a rotating 2-day rest window each week, and she hadn't pushed back. She'd simply nodded once, like someone who hadn't realized how far past the edge she'd been pushed. Jonah had taken over concessions for the late afternoon set. He'd been quiet that morning but attentive. Every customer got the right order the first time. He even stepped in when a group of middle schoolers started roughhousing near the drink station, guiding them back to their seats without raising his voice. Kellan made his way back to the lobby and was met with a surprise. Standing near the customer service desk was a man in a button-down shirt with a visitor's badge clipped to his collar. He was speaking with Whitney, but the conversation was clearly uncomfortable. "I'm just saying," the man said, "we had a long-standing agreement with your former manager. Bulk ticket purchases, private screening flexibility. Devin always took care of us." Whitney didn't flinch. "That arrangement wasn't documented, and we can't honor undocumented discounts." Kellan stepped in. "Is there a problem here?" The man turned. "I'm from the local real estate association. We've done business with this theater for years. Devin let us book private showings for discounted rates. I'm not sure why the new team is making things difficult." "You're referring to informal discounts?" Kellan asked. "Devin always said it was a courtesy rate. We'd rent out 2 theaters a month for our meetings. Paid cash. No receipts." Kellan kept his tone steady. "We're reviewing all prior off-the-books arrangements. If there's no contract or invoice, we can't continue the practice. But we'd be happy to work with you on setting up something official." The man's posture stiffened. "It's a shame. We brought in a lot of business. I'm more concerned with transparency than volume. If you're willing to go through proper channels, we can talk. Otherwise, this conversation's over." The man didn't reply. He turned and left without another word. Whitney exhaled. "That guy's been showing up every month with envelopes. Always cash." Devin called it community outreach. "Not anymore," Kellan said. "If it's not on paper, it doesn't happen." They walked back toward concessions. Whitney glanced to her left and quietly motioned toward a young woman behind the counter. "That's Tessa. She just started last week. She wasn't part of Devin's crew, but she's been coming in late every shift. Not by much, 10 minutes here, 15 there, but it's consistent." Kellan nodded. "Let's talk to her." They waited until the line thinned. Then Whitney approached. "Tessa, you got a second?" The girl looked up. "Yeah? You've been late 3 times this week. I just want to understand what's going on." "I take the bus," Tessa said quickly. "It runs behind sometimes. I always try to make up the time." "Have you told anyone it's a transit issue?" Kellan asked. "No. I didn't think it mattered since I still got my hours in." "It matters," Whitney said. "We're not here to punish you, but we need clear communication. If you're running late, text the lead on shift. We can adjust. But if it keeps happening without warning, we'll have to revisit your schedule." Tessa nodded. "Okay, I'll make sure I text if it happens again." "Good. Let's move forward from here." They let her get back to work. Later that evening, a minor disruption surfaced. A boy around 17 with a theater badge that read Kevin was caught by Jonah slipping a bag of candy from the stockroom into his hoodie. It wasn't loud, no shouting, no scene, but Jonah quietly flagged Whitney, who brought Kellan into the loop. They spoke to Kevin in the office. "It was just one bag," he said, arms crossed. "Everyone does it when no one's looking." Whitney frowned. "That's not how this works." Kellan stayed calm. "You've been here how long?" 3 months. "First incident?" Kevin hesitated. "Yeah. Then you're suspended. 1 week. No pay. If you come back, you start fresh. No second chances after that." Kevin blinked. "Just for 1 bag? You're not being fired," Kellan said. "But we're drawing a line. You take from us, you don't work here." Kevin nodded slowly, then left the office. Whitney sat down. "I thought he'd argue. People usually know when they're wrong. They just don't want to be told." By the time the last show let out, it was nearly 11. The lobby was quiet except for the soft hum of the soda machine and the shuffle of brooms against tile. Kellan gathered the crew for a final huddle. "You've all done solid work this weekend. You covered when short-staffed, fixed what was broken, and kept each other accountable. That's what this place deserves. Whitney added, we're not perfect yet, but we're in a better place than we were 3 days ago. No one spoke, but the silence felt different now. Not tense, just tired, in the way that comes after doing something real. Outside, the parking lot had thinned. Whitney leaned against the wall near the employee exit, arms folded. Kellan joined her. You planning to stay on after the interim period? He asked. I haven't thought that far. You should. You've been running this place without the title or the pay for too long. That changes now. We'll post for the permanent manager role next week. If you apply, you'll be the top candidate. Whitney didn't answer right away. Then she said, if I take it, I want final say on hiring. No one gets brought in unless they understand what we're fixing. You'll have it. She nodded once. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. That kid Marcus. He stuck it out through a lot. I want him promoted to floor lead. He's earned more than just a shift. Whitney smiled faintly. I'll make it happen. Kellan walked to his car, the theater behind him glowing quiet and steady in the dark. On Monday, he'd return to headquarters. There were 15 other theaters, and now he had questions for all of them. But for the first time in over a year, the one that had worried him most wasn't on that list anymore.